Hey, welcome back to Common Sense OT Security, where we discuss the biggest problems of OT security through the lens of common sense, which usually yields some interesting insights. Actually, today is a little bit more mundane. We will look at recent new product offerings from us, from OTbase, that you most likely haven't heard about before. So let's just jump right into it. If you go to the OTbase homepage, which is langner.com, there's a product section where you see 3 different offerings listed. And you will probably have seen this one already, OTbase Enterprise. That's like the legacy OTbase, which is primarily intended for large enterprises. And since we have introduced 2 additional offerings, we are now calling this OTbase Enterprise, just to make it clear for whom this is actually built. And then we have also OTbase Snapshot and OTbase Cloud. And let's look at Snapshot. That's our most recent offering. And that is really, really much different from the OTbase that you know, because it's not an OT asset management system. So OTbase Snapshot is a self-service product where you can build your OT asset inventory as an Excel table automatically. And then you get your Excel table with all the asset details in there, and then you can do with that whatever you like. So for those of you who approach OT asset inventories as a more static thing that ultimately has its result in Excel, this is for you, my friends, because certainly the benefit is that you don't need to manually record all the details. You don't have to do those walk-down inspections. You will use OTbase Discovery, do your local discovery in your process networks, and then upload the result files to our new portal, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And then you get your inventory as an Excel table. So let's just briefly go through the workflow. The first thing you would do is you download OTbase Discovery. There are different flavors of Discovery. All of those can be downloaded if you go to our homepage and then go to the download button. This takes you here, and here you can download the various products that are all installed locally. And then you do your discovery. You will see the results right away in the various UIs here that you can see. So for example, with this agent, it will expose all the installed software, the data flow, etc. And then when you have done that, you go to the Snapshot portal. You create an account first, obviously, and then you upload those asset detail files to Snapshot, and then you create a job by doing that. So when that job is completed, which might take a couple of hours, and I'll tell you why in a second, you get an email notifying you that the results are ready for download, just like so. And then you can tell OTbase Snapshot what you actually want to use. And as you can see, well, it comes with different price tags. So just as an example, the devices will cost you $2, just $2. In this case, this is a very special case. We have only one device, but you can easily do the math. $2 for a device. And then you can select all the software on that device. In our case, it's 335 different software products. For the vulnerabilities, you can choose if you just want to have critical and high severity, or if you also want to have medium and low. And finally, if there are any PLC racks in your asset details, then you can also select if you want to see those or not. Okay, and then from here you will go to a checkout page, etc. I don't want to go into a lot of detail here because this is just an overview. We will take a closer look at Snapshot in a follow-up webcast. So just to give you an idea what it's going to look like. And then you have all kinds of jobs here in your list. And so this is a one-shot operation. Let's quickly check out the details that you're going to get. So let's go to Snapshot. You will get an Excel table with multiple worksheets. You will get the device information in one worksheet, like so. Communication adapter, then you have an encoder, then you have an HMI, etc. So the category, the types are exposed, network switches, serial numbers, model description, product lifecycle stage, location ID, forget that for now, MAC address, IP address, network. And as you may see already, well, this is a lot of information that you will not get when you collect all those asset details manually, because the automatic discovery goes so much further. And the one thing that I especially want you to focus on is this first column here. It's a device ID. That is super important because it establishes device identity. That means if you go to another worksheet, such as the Windows apps, which lists all the installed software, you will always be able to see where you have, for example, McAfee application control installed, because it also comes with that device ID. And that allows you, at the end of the day, to put everything together. Obviously, Excel is not well suited for this because it only has a two-dimensional table format, but certainly what you can do with this information, you can just throw it into Power BI, and because of that device ID that pretty much acts as a key, Power BI can put it all together, and then you can do your fancy analytics, your reporting. You will see right away which particular rack modules, as an example, are associated with one particular rack, with one device. And that also applies to the vulnerabilities, which you also get automatically. If you happen to check the box, then you will see all the known vulnerabilities for your installed base. And it looks like this here. And the important thing, again, here is besides all the CVE data, it also lists the device ID, which, again, will allow you to associate everything back together so that you would be able to see right away, okay, for that particular device, which known vulnerabilities affect me. And you get that information with the KEV, meaning, well, is there a known exploit for this particular vulnerability? You will get it with the CVSS base call, the severity, everything, okay? And so this is basically your deliverable that you get from Snapshot. And depending on what you select, what you are willing to pay for. And just if you have missed it earlier, just to give you an idea, one known vulnerability costs you exactly 5 cents. And just put that in perspective, what it would cost you all the hours to figure out, well, this device, let's just say my Windows 7 box here, what vulnerability might affect that nice device, my engineering station or whatnot. So you get all of that in detail, and it costs you just 5 cents per vulnerability. $2 per device, etc. But again, we will talk about Snapshot in a follow-up webcast. This is just an overview, and this is a new offering that is particularly aimed at organizations and people who are not yet ready to go for a full OT asset management system. So they just want to have the inventory as a snapshot. They say, okay, we understand we used to do it all manually with Excel, but that no longer works because our infrastructure is growing, but we are not ready or we don't have the budget to go for a full OT asset management. And this is your solution, my friends. You get all the details in super fancy Excel format, and the best part is from there you can go further and do your reporting and analytics in Power BI. And guess what? You even get a Power BI template from us, so that you don't need to start from scratch. So that you will have different views for your vulnerabilities, for your installed software, etc. So it's just a banger for those who plan to continue using Excel for their OT asset inventory. The next offering that we are looking at, well, just briefly, because I would imagine that most of you know this already. This is the legacy OTbase, which is now called OTbase Enterprise. And it was always designed for large-scale installations where we are talking about 6-digit device numbers. And it is used in that fashion, okay? And just to briefly show you the architecture, you have your discovery. That discovery is totally identical with what you are using for OTbase Snapshot. It's the very same software. That means you also install it locally in your process networks, where it collects all the asset details. And then, different from Snapshot, you have the OTbase inventory. That's like the central database where all the data is consolidated, where we do the CVE matching, etc., and where you have your various workflows, such as for vulnerability management or for problem management. This all happens within OTbase inventory. And in the case of OTbase Enterprise, this is installed on-premise, usually in your enterprise network. So that means no data leaves your domestic infrastructure, right? So there is connectivity to the internet, but that is unidirectional, as you see here. So just for example, the vulnerability information is pulled usually once per day from NIST and from CISA, so that you always see the latest vulnerabilities that affect your installed base. Certainly, that's a difference to OTbase Snapshot, because as the name implies, that's a one-shot operation. And there might be new vulnerabilities the next day, which you wouldn't know about. But in OTbase Enterprise, you would, because this CVE database is updated daily. And then you have also the links to enterprise IT, such as Splunk or ServiceNow. You can export, import the data as you like using a REST API. And so that's the big difference. OTbase Enterprise is a full-featured OT asset management system, including vulnerability management and a couple of other workflows. And it is designed for large enterprises with, I don't know, dozens of individual sites all around the globe. And it is all installed locally on-premise. And this is a difference to the third offering that we call OTbase Cloud. And you could imagine the difference as follows. So let's just quickly go back to Enterprise, because we can use this diagram here. For OTbase Cloud, the inventory actually sits in the cloud. So it's moved from here up to there. And the idea is to cater to smaller operations, where the average installation size is from 100 to 5,000 devices, and certainly for operations where you probably see it as an advantage to not have to manage that server, the OTbase inventory server. So you just take advantage of URL where that takes you to OTbase inventory in the cloud. And again, that's limited to small and medium operations, because we make a hard cut at 5,000. If you want to go above and beyond, then you would switch to OTbase Enterprise, which is super simple, because you can retain all your existing data. You can migrate it to a local installation. And in case you are wondering about cybersecurity, well, there are a couple of very tight access controls. Just as an example, you will need an SSL client certificate to even connect to an OTbase Cloud instance. So this is one thing that you will get from us. You will get that certificate that you have to install in your browser. And if you don't do that, you will not be able to access your inventory in the cloud. And certainly we also support two-factor authentication. And so all the good stuff that will make you confident in keeping your OT asset information in the cloud. So that's basically the difference between those three offerings, and that is those are the various scenarios where they are targeting. So Snapshot, one-shot operation, just your inventory on demand. Then we have Cloud for small and medium installations, and finally Enterprise for large-scale installations, several 100,000 devices, and then everything is on-premise. In OTbase Cloud, only the discovery software is on-premise, and the database is in the cloud. And finally, in Snapshot, the discovery is also on-premise, but there is no database in the cloud. You just connect to our portal, which obviously is in the cloud. The portal does the transformation, and then you can download the results as an Excel table. And one other thing that I mentioned earlier, why does it take, or why might it take a couple of hours to compute the resulting Excel table? That is because of the vulnerability mapping. So if you would leave the checkbox for vulnerabilities unchecked, it goes very quickly. But the vulnerability mapping usually takes a couple of hours, especially if you have included a bunch of Windows boxes. So that's the reason why this is decoupled. You cannot just upload your asset information and then get the Excel table back just like this, because that CVE mapping, which factors in the latest CVEs from today, that is going to take a couple of hours, especially when you're looking at thousands of CVEs, which usually is the case. So if you get the information back, well, I don't know, 5,000, 10,000 CVEs, that is a common occurrence. So that is nothing to worry about. It's not about you. It's just how things are in typical OT environments. So let's just check if we have any questions. So we don't. Remember, this is live, so you can ask questions in LinkedIn or in X or YouTube, but I don't see anything. So therefore, let's just keep it brief today, and see you in a week. Bye-bye.